All right, we're going to bring it home today with the end of World War I and Woodrow Wilson's role in bringing that war to its end. This is Wilsonianism in action. Woodrow Wilson, remember, believed that a peace that sought revenge or retribution could not be sustained. And out of that idea comes the development of his 14 points, 14 things that he thought should be done to put the world back together that would give a lasting peace. Collectively, the idea is to maintain positive relations between nations, for example, keeping trade open and free, redrawing borders to their pre-war situations, and offering self-determination for European states, and the establishment of the League of Nations. Now, Germany would see these 14 points as their best opportunity to end the war, save some face, and not have their country ravaged by a punitive agreement. So, come January of 1919, Woodrow Wilson and the other leaders of Britain and France and the other Allied powers will meet in Paris to work on treaties to bring an end to the war. Now, during this Paris Peace Conference, Woodrow Wilson would fall terribly ill with the Spanish flu, putting him out of commission for most of the month of April and then week afterwards. This removed him from many important negotiations and left him weaker even when he returned. Nations had little agreement on the level of punishment that Germany should suffer. France, where most of this war was fought, of course, wanted the most severe punishments, while Britain and the United States could accept more leniency because their situation in the war was very different. Germany has no say in these deliberations whatsoever. Now, Woodrow Wilson, for his part, is willing to compromise on his 14 points, but he does want that League of Nations more than anything else. Out of the Paris Peace Conference comes four separate treaties that you should be aware of. The Treaty of Versailles, the most famous with Germany. There's also a treaty with Austria called Saint-Germain, a Treaty of Trianon with Hungary, a Treaty of Sèvres with Turkey that you should be aware of. Now, for that Treaty of Versailles, the settlement that Germany had to deal with would give them some severe punishments, though ultimately less than what France had originally sought. Germany was going to lose territory along their borders, including that region of Alsace and Lorraine that they had previously taken from France. They're going to also lose all of their overseas colonies. Germany will be demilitarized. Their army will be reduced. Their navy and their air force will be ended. And the region of the Rhineland, that western portion of Germany, will be completely demilitarized as well. Germany would be forced to sign Article 231 of the treaty, which was the war guilt clause that made Germany accept responsibility for the war. And Germany would then be charged punitive reparations, over $33 billion. That's about 600 billion in today's dollars. And remember, this is the end of the war. Germany was already broke, which is part of the reason they wanted to end. Many in the United States believed that the treaty was unfair, including Woodrow Wilson. He thought this went too far, though Woodrow Wilson would get his League of Nations, so he did ultimately go along with the agreement. Now, the League of Nations is created within the Treaty of Versailles, and that's an important point. Article 10 within that treaty called for all League nations to resist in external aggression and to support the independence of all members. This would be a big sticking point for American senators who would have to ratify this treaty, for they were afraid that signing this treaty and joining the League of Nations might drag them into a European conflict that may not be in America's best interest. And Woodrow Wilson was unwilling to compromise with his opposition. After Wilson comes back from Paris, he embarks on a national tour to try to sell the treaty to the American people so they could put pressure on their senators, where they needed a two-thirds vote of the Senate for the approval of that treaty. Now, he started this tour in September of 1919, but once again quickly fell ill and ultimately had to end the tour by late September. And then that would be followed by the most severe of Woodrow Wilson's now three strokes that he's had in his life in early October. This really puts Woodrow Wilson out of commission. He cannot effectively sell the treaty or lobby for an acceptable treaty. Republican opposition in the Senate was led by Henry Cabot Lodge, who offered a compromise bill, which Woodrow Wilson actually encouraged Democrats to oppose. In the end, the original treaty bill failed to get the required two-thirds vote. It was close, but it didn't reach it. So the United States never ratified the Treaty of Versailles. The United States will never join the League of Nations. The question of this treaty would persist through the next presidential election in 1920, which was ultimately won by Republican Warren G. Harding. And you can see above me here, this was not a particularly close election. With the treaty left unratified, Congress did have to work to figure out a way to officially end this conflict for the United States. That came with a resolution known as the Knox-Porter Resolution that declared an end to the war. And by October of 1921, the Senate would ratify the Treaty of Versailles minus the clauses of the League of Nations. So still no League of Nations for the United States. Through the 1920s, the United States would be led by Republican presidents who were far more interested in the United States remaining isolated from European political affairs than possibly getting involved in some conflict due to international organizations. All right, that's wrapping it up for today, and we're done with World War I. We'll see you next time.